this. So everyone on the call, I'm really glad and excited to introduce to you Dr. Ramakrishna Sastri. It's so tough for me to call that, considering he's my uncle, and all my life I called him that. I'm first time calling you by name. So very qualified, had a stellar career. He holds a doctorate in electrical engineering from the Indian Institute of Science. Later on, went to teach at IASC and several other global universities like the University of Maryland, Minnesota, etc. He also worked in ISRO and several other global organizations, and also went on to be the CTO for an organization for a brief stint of his career. All of it, and now comes the exciting part, while continuing to nourish and strengthen his roots. He's learned a lot around Vedanta from the parents and done an entire legacy of rigorous self-study, right? So whenever we meet, our interactions are usually around Paramhamsa or Adi Shankaracharya, understanding the nuances of Gita, Bhagavatam, and many others. So I have requested him today to take out some time and introduce to us the entire Yoga Vasishtha. I'm tempted to give a brief introduction of Yoga Vasishtha, but let it come from the Guruji on the call, Dr. Shastri here. So, Dr. Shastri, thank you very much for accepting the invite. Whom you see on the call are literally the very enthusiastic Ramayana and Rama's wisdom seekers. So, all through the foundation, we have been engaged in several training programs, as I mentioned earlier. All of them have come out of some of those programs and have joined today to listen to your words of wisdom. Okay, so we will keep it for around 35-40 minutes and then engage in some Q&A. And my only humble request to everyone is the chat window is open for you throughout. You get a question, pop it in. The last 15 minutes or so, we'll use it for that. All right. With that, okay, all to you.
All right. Namaste for everybody. You are all very, very learned people. So it is my privilege to talk to you today. So let me start with my prayer to Guru. Om Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Because the lineage of gurus is the most important for us. They have over thousands of years, they have created so much knowledge. It is for us, it's like a pond. You have to go and drink in it. That's what it is. And when it comes to Yoga Vasishtha, you know, you are all working with Ramayana and finding out a lot of interesting things. Ramayana is also a great teacher of not only morality and code of behavior. Every what I would say, part in Ramayana, it teaches us something. And of course, most importantly, Hanuman in the Sundarakanda, he teaches how to behave, what is humility, what is all this. But interestingly, also Rama, in the early stages of his, after his education, he and his brothers, they went around the empire, which was a custom in those days, just so that to know. And after going through all the most homes for about 3 or 4 months, I don't know, every home he visited, they were only telling him their problems, how some people died, how they were sick, or this, or all kinds of things. Nobody said that they were happy. So he comes back to the capital and then said, what is this? Why do I need this kingdom? How do I solve their problems? If I can't solve, what do I do? Why should I inherit this kingdom? So he was kind of dejected. There is a difference between dejection and depression. So don't consider depression. Depression is totally incapable of doing anything. Dejection is kind of, he did not see any point in doing anything. That is the state when Vishwamitra comes to Dasharatha, asking that the 2 boys be sent to protect his yajnas. And Dasharatha says, you know, there are 2 young boys, and how can I send this and that? And finally he agrees. And then he brings Vishwamitra to Rama. That's when the whole thing starts. Because Rama tells Vishwamitra, I don't know what your yajnas are. I have no interest on anything. I can't come with you. That is when Vishwamitra teaches him something, but he could have taught him more. But he wanted Vasishtha to teach him because Vasishtha is the Kulaguru. This is the background, and it's written by Valmiki. It is 32,000 verses, bigger than Ramayana itself. But today, unfortunately, many of these verses are not available. And I tried to get as much as you can, but what I could get was a 1680 verses, a book from Sringeri Math. And the interesting point is 32,000 verses have not only philosophy, but a lot of stories that give examples to those philosophical concepts. So it's stories and philosophy combined. Later on, Puranas came by, and Puranas, of course, also taught philosophy, but in a different, indirect manner. But the importance of this is one of the oldest texts. It's almost written by Valmiki, almost at the same time. So, like Ramayana. So, it has both philosophy as well as stories. So, if we can get hold of whatever verses that you can get, that would be wonderful, because the stories also are important in that. So, with that background, let's go into what exactly Vasishtha taught Rama. And from there we will start. First of all, the opening prayer verse. Yata sarvani bhutani pratibhanti sthitani cha yatrayavopasamam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. This is the opening prayer verse in the Yoga Vasishtha. It says, Yata sarvani bhutani. All these jivas, everything, all, not only humans, animals, everything, insects, everything, where they came from, where they sustain themselves, and finally where they get dissolved. That is, Yatrai Upasamam Yanti. Upasamam means joining into from the source itself. Tasmai Satyatmane Namaha. That Satyatmana, that eternal energy from which all this came. That is the only constant thing. Everything else is transient. We come and go, we come and go. So many. If you look at all these kalpas, how many trillions have come and gone. So we are all just temporary in this whole universe, in this our one galaxy. Out of that, ours is a small solar family. Our sun is the smallest star. And then here we are on this earth, one of the planets. We come and go, stay 70 years, 80 years. We are like space travelers. We are like visitors. That's what we are. So when everything is so transient, only one constant thing is that Paramatma. That is the, you can call it infinite, you can call it eternal wisdom, you can call it Akhanda Chaitanyam, so many names you can call it. That's the only thing. So it says, Yata sarvani bhutani pratibhanti sthitani cha yatrai upasamam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. That is the Satyatma. That's what I am saying. That's a great prayer slogan, because it gives the entire philosophical context in it. Now, what happened is when Vishwamitra comes, Rama tells him, I will read that one sloka. It is what I did was, out of all these slokas, I picked a few verses just to give you a gist of Yoga Vasishtha. So we'll run through different type of topics, hopefully within 30-35 minutes, which is too short a time for to talk about Yoga Vasishtha, but then we'll do that. So Rama tells Vishwamitra, this is the chapter 1, verse 25. Kadhayamyaha majñopi vichara kriyate maya jayate mritaye loko mriyate jananaya cha. He says, I am an ignorant person, but I tell you a few things I thought about. Everyone that is born is dying. Everyone that is dying is reborn. And then he says, Asthira sarva evaite sacharachara cheshtitaha kimme rajyena kim bhogaihi koham kimidamagatam. All these movable and immovable objects also are all impermanent. Even the big hills and mountains, they also wither away slowly with wind and rain and everything. We don't know it because it happens over billions of years. But everything changes. So he says, everything is impermanent. What use is my kingdom and wealth to me? Kime rajyena kim bhogai. And then he says, Koham, who am I? This is a very important question. Koham. Because we don't know who we are. We are like robots. We just get up and then morning go and do things. But how do we, what energizes us? We do not know. For example, a robot may not be aware that there is a battery and a software in it, but it just gets up, goes, and we also have a battery, we also have a software in it. That is the Chaitanya. Because even a dead body has all the senses, but it doesn't work unless the Chaitanya is in place. So when you say Koham, there is a lot of deeper question in it. Who am I? How am I functioning? How am I able to see? How am I able to hear? What is it that makes me function? That's what Koham means. Then he says, Kimidam Agatam. Where did all this world, where did it come from? Who made it? What is it? So this is this is what I don't understand. So please tell me and tell me something so that I get over my dejection. He asked Vishwamitra. Now these are all these questions, Koham Kimidam Agatam, that is the essence of philosophy. The philosophy is not that something that is there is something in the clouds we need to understand or some God sitting somewhere. It is a logic. Logically, everything that we see, everything we do, most of you are businessmen. Whatever we do, there is a purpose. And whatever you invest in time, you have to get some return. So in our day-to-day, what is the return we are getting? Everything is impermanent. But we are going after all these impermanent things. Then when the body goes away, everything stops, full stop. The whole activity stops just like that. So are we making use of our time in the life? I keep saying that on a normal basis, each human being is given, say, 3 billion heartbeats, approximately, assuming that you live for 80 years. Think of that 3 billion heartbeats as a capital. Whether one is poor or one is rich, whatever it is. How do you use that capital? How many heartbeats are you spending on this or on this? So measure your investment in terms of heartbeats. And what am I getting? Is it permanent? Is it worth it? So going after, that's what we have. That's where this Koham Kimidam Agatam implies. That's most important. So now Vishwamitra replies, I have to move quickly. He says, why all this? Why this dejection? Why is it coming? He says, Vasanatanamam Rama moksha ichuchyate budhaihi padardhavasana dardhyam bandha ichabhidhiyate. He talks about two things. What is liberation? What is bondage? The liberation is we have what's called vasanas. The theory goes that for all the previous lives or whatever we acquired, lots of tendencies, there are vasanas. And there you can call it previous karmas and the phalam and all, whatever that is. These vasanas are, some are from previous janmas, some are developed in this year, some are cultivated because of our environment and what we see around. These vasanas, getting rid of these vasanas, getting over them, so that you are not bonded by that. That is what is called moksha or liberation. Whereas the strong prevalence of such vasanas, which make you attached to the worldly objects, that is called bondage. Now, what is wrong with bondage? I mean, you are born and you see all the world things and you have all the objects and just get whatever you can get and do what's the problem? Why all this Vedanta stuff? Thing is, we are so stressed at every minute because the object of Vedanta is Ananda. If you see Taittiriya Upanishad, there is what is called Anandavalli, Brahmanandavalli actually it's called. Ananda means perfect peace. What we have is 99% our mind goes after things we don't have. That causes us sorrow. Only 1%, occasionally whatever happens when you like something that happens, oh, you feel like very good, I mean, things happen. But in just a matter of few minutes, your mind goes after things you don't have. So we are generally living in sorrow with occasional blips of joy. That's what it is. Why is it? It is because in our life, we have only two things. If I can write it in two sentences, what is our life's pursuit? You want to get what you don't have, and you want to protect what you have. That's all. Entire life's pursuit is just that. And then what you don't have, there are infinite number. You get some, then you find something else you don't have. Then you find something else you don't have. It is a chase, eternal. It never ends. There is no point at which you say, okay, I have enough, I have done enough, I'm having trupto. Trupto Brahma, as they call. I'm content with whatever I have. It never happens. You are always changing. That causes stress, that causes the body. So that's not the way to live. That's what Vedanta says. You find out what are your priorities and how much you want to invest in each particular thing. What is the outcome? Is it useful? Is it what you want? That's the whole purpose of Vedanta. So that's why here, what he says is, these vasanas you have to overcome. When you overcome that, then you get the perfect peace, that ananda. So the objective is ananda or happiness, whatever you want to call it. For example, you take a business book, you can write exactly same book except change the goal. In the business book, the goal is success, whatever it is. Success means maybe making more money or more power or whatever. But if you change it as a spiritual goal, rest of the book remains same. You have to have persistence, you have to work at it, and you have to do things, you have to be aggressive. Everything else applies there also, except that the goal is different. That's the whole thing. Now, Vishwamitra introduces Vasishtha to Rama and asks Vasishtha to teach Rama. See these two verses I am quoting. One is Vishwamitra says, previous vasanas, that's what is holding you. Yeah, you have to get over it. How do you get over it? That's what first verse itself, Vasishtha starts with it. This one I will read. This one is, I don't know, later on you find chapter 2, verse 29. Shubha Shubhabhyam Margabhyam Vahanti Vasana Saritu Paurushena Prayatnena Yojaniya Shubhe Pathi. Shubha Shubham, Shubha and Ashubham, good and bad, as well as these vasanas, they flow like river, both in good and bad, as we do every day. Our results, we can do whatever we want, but we don't know how the results come, right? Those results are influenced by these things. But what he says is, Paurushena Prayatne. You have to do prayatna. You have to take some action. If you don't do prayatnam, nothing will happen. That is, even the vasanas to overcome, you have to work at it. See, the prayatnam is important. That's the same thing in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna. For example, in this Eka, Karma Siddhanta, some people say, everything in this life is ordained by previous lives. If everything is ordained by previous lives, then there is no inclination to do anything. You don't need the Vedas, Puranas, everything, because the previous karma will take care of it now. And this year's thing will take care of next life. But that's not how it is. You have to have some will, human will. Otherwise, there is no chance of getting over the vasanas. That's why he says prayatnena. So he tells Rama, Paurushena prayatnena yojaniya subhepati. That is what is the prayatnam? These vasanas, you channel them towards good. That's the prayatnam. That is, the tendencies should be towards good. What is good? The good again is to overcome those vasanas. So that is the portion. Then he explains to him, what is this bondage? This is a very intricate subject, but interesting slow verse. This is chapter 3, verse 2. Drashtur drasya sattahi bandha icha vidhiyate drashta drusya vashat baddho drusya bhave vimuchyate. He says the bondage occurs because objects, there is somebody who is seeing it, somebody what is seeing. If the objects are not there, there is no attachment. But the objects themselves are not going to come to you and then drag you. Suppose I am a diabetic and I see ice cream, I love to eat ice cream. But that's my mental attachment to the ice cream that's making me eat it. Ice cream is not going to come and drag me out. Objects are not going to come at you. You go after the objects because of your attachments. So that's what he says. But when there is absence of the objects, then there is no attachment. I mean, like take someone like Tarzan who grew up in some forest or something. He never heard of any ice cream or a chocolate, and because he has no attachment to it, because he never saw it. But we see a lot of objects around us. We see a lot of things. Our desires multiply endlessly. That's what he is trying to say here. Remind me 5 minutes before.
Sure, I will.
Yeah, and then now what is that realization? Channel to the goods, that's what we're saying, right? All the vasanas have to be towards realization. What is realization? That's what he says here. This is chapter 3, verse 22. I just picked a few verses to talk to you today. Vijjate hrudaya grandhis chijjate sarva samseha shiyante chasya karmani tasmin druste paravare. Says these are all what we call knots of the heart, these attachments. By heart here in the sense, mind and mind, these things. And when these are cut, all doubts will be removed and all action obligations are exhausted. When the seeker realizes the supreme, that's what he says. That is the goal towards, just as we said, all the vasanas have to be channeled towards this. So every time we do something, if we are really serious about this, am I doing this towards that goal or not? That is, your prioritization list should be towards that particular goal of self-realization. Then what is that self-realization? In fact, he defines somebody who actually realizes the self. Self here means S with capital S. Self as same as Brahman, same as Akhanda Jnanam, everything, they're all interchangeable words. This is an interesting point. Chapter 3, verse 29. Asmin no dvijate loko, lokan no dvijate chayaha, harsha marsha bhayon muktaha, sajivan mukta uchyate. This almost similar thing you will find in Bhagavad Gita also. What he says is, one whom the world does not fear, and who does not fear the world, and who is free of elation, intolerance, and fear, is said to be liberated. So this is the definition of who is liberated. World should not be afraid of you. You should not be afraid of the world. And you should not get momentarily elation and then intolerance and fear and all those things. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, they are called Shet Chatrus or six Chatrus. That is who is liberated below. Why do you liberate again? Again, it goes back to the Vedanta. That is the happiness. That is when you will be a kind of witness to things. It's a drama that's going on around you. Somebody asked me, how do you see movies? I said, I will see two movies every day. One daytime, the whole world is a movie, whatever is going on. And then you sleep, in the dream again, you will see another movie. This is what is called drama. Lots of things happening without our control, without anything. We just hear in the news, that happened, this happened, that happened. And we get affected, we get things. So these are you have to be a kind of a witness to things and not get too much attached to it, but you need to do what you can do. Again, that's what he tells Rama. Whatever you need to do, there are obligations you have to tell. We'll come back to that. What is that obligation? Who sets that obligation? So after saying all this, another 10 minutes?
No, we have time. Please go ahead. Another 10 minutes.
No, I just want to put everything in this. Now, mind keeps on wandering, right? How to control the mind? And that's another thing he talks about. He says, Bhava vinurmukta jara marana varjitam samsaratmanam avyagram matvam modhamatirbhava. Says, meditate calmly on the self and Brahman. Meditate. which is without existence or non-existence, and is without old age or death. Do not become ignorant. What he says is meditate on Brahma means, what is meditation? Meditation is control of the mind. Mind is an interesting thing. Mind is the one that gives us all the attachments. Mind is also the only resource we have through which we overcome the liberation. It's an interest, it's a two-edged sword. Either you can get completely engulfed in it, or you can try and come out of it. So meditation is a means by which you slowly churn your mind. When you start thinking, sitting at one place calmly, quietly, and think about it, lots of doubts coming, lots of questions come into your mind, and you have to find answers. And those answers are something that's convincing to you. Eventually, when you find those answers, your mind calms down and then opens some Brahman. That is, you can be able to concentrate and do the meditation. In fact, how do you get to the self-realization? Mandukya Upanishad says a very interesting thing. It says, Amedhaya, that is, however much you think about it, or however many things you hear about it, that's not enough. Unless you do churn this mind like yourself. You have to think about it. You have to get your own answers. Somebody, you can hear to other people. You can hear to all kinds of pravachanams. You can read a lot of things. But unless you get, like those two questions that we talked about. Who am I? Where is this world that came about? Did you get answers that are convincing to you? If they are not convincing, you have to move on. You may hear a lot of things. You can integrate them. You can amalgamate them and try to find. But the answer has to come through you, not by somebody else. Someone else can only show you a path. That's why all these gurus are called margadarsakas. They're only showing you the path. They can't take you there. Eventually, you have to go yourself. Because if someone says they show me a map and there's a London city, I have to believe somebody who went to London and came back, or I have to go myself and then see it. Right? So map is the margadarsaka. Unless you travel and go on there, you won't find it yourself. That's what you have to do. That's why all these things are all what they call, they are teaching, hand-holding. But that's all they can do. So what he says is, do that meditation. Now with this, one other thing, I have talked about attachments earlier. On we talked about meditation. He talks about, in the meditation, all the objects we talked about, they are all temporary, they are all transient, right? Then what is this world? How did it come about? What is our relationship to the world? Here the truth is spelled out very well in this, if we understand this. Chapter 29, verse 30. There are 32 chapters. I went already up chapter 29. Ghatadishu pranasteshu yadhakasho nanasyati tadha deheshu nasteshu dehi nicho nanasyati. This is a very interesting thing. That is, you have suppose parts of different sizes. Each part has air in it, right? You break the part, what happens to the air? Air doesn't go anywhere. It is a part that has come into the air. It's not the air that came into the part. Air is all the way, all the time it is there. It is there complete. The parts are coming, parts are going. We are all like parts. That is, the entire thing is pervaded by that infinite Chaitanya. But into the Chaitanya, our bodies come and go. We just come, we stay, we use some Chaitanya flows through us, through you, through everybody, like electricity flows, goes through everybody like a fan and a light and this microwave and everything. Same electricity. Same Chaitanya moves in every one of us. But we come and go. Chaitanya is there all the time. That's what one has to meditate on. That is, we are temporary. That's the only thing. So the embodied, the spirit is called embodied spirit. We are all embodied. The spirit is within us, but we come and go, but spirit won't go anywhere. That's the important part. So with this, now question is again, we talked about meditation. This is the last, we are coming to last three verses. Most of us, we go to the temples, we have pictures or idols, and then because mind cannot concentrate on Onkara or something abstract. So we need something to focus on. Here he talks about that. This is an interesting verse. This is chapter 32, verse 8. Sakaram bhajatavatvam yavat sattvam prasidati nirakare pare tatve tatastitar akrutrima. This is interesting. What he says is, you can pray sakaram. That is, no, we all hear about God not having shape, not having name, not having anything, right? But then we do all kinds of things. That is, we create images, and we celebrate birthdays, we celebrate marriages, we do all kinds of things. Though we know that's what it is. But what he says is, it's okay to start with sakar. Sakaram bhajatavatvam yavat sattvam prasida. That is, as you go on doing with this, after some time you start questioning yourself. That is, whenever you go to the temple, whenever you see the idol, what you are seeing is not the idol, not the particular god or whatever that was enshrined in it, but you have to look at it as Parabrahma. You go to the temple, you see any goddess or god, this is the representation of that universal spirit. That's what it is. It's that thing that we have to go into the temple. So as you keep doing it, after some time you overcome the need for a support. These are all support structure. They are called alambanams. The ultimate alambanam is called Onkar. That is, nothing else matters. You can recite lots of prayers and lots of things, but you see, whenever you recite a prayer, your mind has to work. You have to remember, you have to recollect, you have to do it. So what our rishis recommended finally, Onkaram is easier to remember. Nothing else to remember. You don't have to remember volumes of slokas, volumes of things, of prayers. So Onkaram is the meditation. In fact, it's called Alambanam. In the Kathopanishad, it says on Onkaram, Etadalambanam sreshtham, etadalambanam param, etadalambanam jnatva brahmaloke mahiyate. That is Etadalambanam on Onkaram. This is the sreshtham. Etadalambanam sreshtham, etadalambanam param. This is the greatest one. This is the greatest. So now what he says is, you even go beyond that Onkaram Alambanam. That's also Alambanam means support. Like you take a ladder to go up somewhere, this is also Alambanam. But what he says at some point, Akrutrima, that is without your effort, you would come to a state where you don't need any support in your meditation. That's what. So all the temples and everything, they're all important. They are all very important because they are stepping stones to this thinking, thought process. Like small children, we introduce them to the temples and they grow. But as we grow up, at some point, we need to understand what are we doing. For example, if we do pujas, I won't talk more about it, but Shankaracharya has written a beautiful book on Nirguna Manasa Puja. All the 16 steps of puja we do through an Advaita meaning of each particular step, how you have to think about it when you are doing it. Like, for example, you give Pajam, for example, you say, from all my previous janmas, whatever vasanas I had, I am pouring out to you. That's how you have to think about it. Otherwise, we normally do puja, we throw a few things here and there, but our mind is wandering, we are somewhere else. But this Nirguna Manasa Puja tells you how to think while doing the puja. It's important. So anyway, so basically it sanctions Sakara Puja. It's an important milestone. It's not that we don't need. Like, for example, somebody 10th class, who goes calculus, and he can't say the 3-digit addition is bad, which he learned in the first grade. Because that's a stepping stone that's required before he comes up to the calculus level. So everything that we have, all the temples, all the things that we have, all the Sanatana Dharma, they are all important. They are all steps. But ultimately, you have to be able to meditate on the Parabrahma. Now, with this, what he says is one last one. As long as the worldly obligations are not performed, till then the pure state of deep abidance is not possible. That's interesting. In the sense, unless you perform your obligations, you cannot get into samadhi. There is also the other mirror kind of it. There is no vairagyam, people say, unless you do your obligations first. Because your mind is always of the obligations. You can go to a Himalayan cave, you'll still be thinking, oh, did I make the mortgage payment? Did I make the credit card payment? Did I do this? Did I do that? Did I call those people? Or did I have the meeting? So it doesn't matter physically where you are. It is the mind. So the mind should be able to, unless if an obligation is done, then you are at peace. Otherwise, you'll be thinking about it. Now the question is, what are the obligations? There are some obligations that are by birth or by other things that are given to you, which you need to do. And there are others through your egotistical pursuits, you create yourself. You can have, for example, 10 different buildings and 10 different cars. Then to support them, you have to work harder, you have to get more money, you have to do all this. So some obligations are more egotistical. They're not necessary. Some are absolutely essential just for your survival. Because as long as body is our instrument, right? This is called Shariram, called Dharma Sadhanam. So to maintain this Dharma Sadhanam, you need to work somewhere, you have to get some food, you feed your family, etc. So there are certain minimal obligations. But certain obligations we just go by, we just get them. So the word obligation is very, very important in the sense, you have to decide yourself who gave you these obligations. That's where the last one verse here it comes. Finally, Vasishtha tells Rama, Tasmad Rajyadikaryani Nivartaya Yadha Kramam Devakaryam Tadha Krutva Tataschatva Sukhi Bhava. Tasmat means therefore, after 32,000 verses, this is the 32 chapter, verse 18. Tasmat, I told you so much about philosophy, about all these things. That's what he's saying. Therefore, Rajyadikaryani Nivartaya Yadha Kramam. You have certain obligations you inherited because you were born into royal family. Rajya, whatever royal work that you need to do, they need to do it as prescribed, not as it was freewheeling as you do. There are certain bounds even there. Nivartaya yadhakram and devakaryam tadha krutva. In the same way you do rajyadikaryani, same way you do devakaryam also. Then you can say, I am dejected, I am not interested in anything. But as long as you don't do these things, you can't say, I have vairagyam. Your vairagyam should be attached with the obligations. You complete your obligations. What are the obligations? Again, I just said you set for yourself. You can question each thing you do. Is it my egotistically what I am doing, or is it something I need to do? It's very easy. Only thing is we need to have the courage to not to do things which are not needed. We put upon our head so many things we take unnecessarily, get involved, and then mental stress, a lot of things. We spend our time, divert away. I keep saying that mind is like a bank balance. Thoughts are like expenses. Your balance goes down as you keep thinking about unnecessary things. That's what happens. So this is the final. This is almost the same, similar to what Sri Krishna tells Arjuna in the last. That's called Charma Sloka. He basically says, you give up everything, just believe in me. And then you do things. You are doing it for dharma, not for yourself, not for myself, to preserve dharma. So same thing here. Tasmad rajyadikaryani nivartaya yadha kramam devakaryam tadha krutva tatachatva sukhi bhava. Now, it's not that Rama needs all this teaching. This Yoga Vasishtha is created for us. He's a Paramatma, he doesn't need all these things. We have our own little kingdoms, right? We have our own small families, we have our things, and we have certain obligations to society and our group. So we have to do Rajyadikaryani yadhakramam. If there is a stop sign, you have to stop your car. I mean, these are the rules for the game. That's yadhakramam, right? So you have to function in the society, whatever laws that prevail, plus your own, take care of your own family, your own things. It's not that Vedanta tells you that, leave everything and then go somewhere. You have to do whatever you need. Similarly, Devakaryam Tatha Krutva. Because Devakaryam, why? Eventually, after Devakaryam, you reduce little these worldly things smaller and smaller. Each day that becomes smaller. If you remember the olden days, all the kings used to go to after certain years, the old age comes, they go to forests. They used to completely leave out entire empire and everything, go and live in forests. Vanaprasthasrama. To come to that stage, because they were doing Devakaryam, they came up to their mind that all these worldly things he had done enough. It's not enough. It's not going to take you anywhere. So that's put a stop. Now, at the end, after all this, listening to this, the last verse, chapter 32, 22, Sri Rama finally says, Sarve Shrunata Bhadram vo Nischayena Sunischitam Atma Jnanat Param Nasti Guru Rapicha Tad All of you, please hear. He tells everybody. When Vasishtha is telling Rama, there are also other people around him. The definitive conclusion reached after this investigation. There is nothing superior to the knowledge of the self, Paramatma, I mean, and to the teacher who knows that self. And the teacher here is Vasishtha. He is a great sage and all-knowing person. So finally, he gives his salute to the teacher for imparting him all his knowledge. And then, interestingly, Raghavasya tadha murdha pushpa vrishti papataha. Then all the gods from the heavens, they dropped flowers on Sri Rama. This is the last verse, 23, chapter 30 to 23. So what we learned in this so far is that you have certain obligations, but you try to minimize. Basically, what do you mean by minimizing is your ego, you have to chip at it. Eventually, it's a non-dual. Either you are there, you think I am there, I am here, or you think you are Brahman. You are the Chaitanya. You are not this body, you are not this mind. You just happen to have this body given to you. You didn't come to this world at your bidding. You didn't ask for it. And you can't stop going. So the whole thing is just a transitory thing. So in this transitory thing, we have to be cognizant. One small example I will give you, and then I will leave it at this. If you go to a movie, a horror movie, and it's very horrifying scene, and then you sit at the edge of the seat, but you don't run out of the theater. Why? Because somewhere you know you are safe in the theater. Whatever is happening on the screen. Same thing here. We have to keep in mind that Antarlina, that is the Paramatma, is there in everything that you see. Like Prahlada. Prahlada, what is the greatness of Prahlada? He saw Vishnu in everything. When Hiranyakashipu, they brought a snake, he saw Vishnu in it. They brought a knife, he saw Vishnu in it. And they tried to put him under an elephant, he saw Vishnu in it. So, Sarvam Vishnumayam, that's how he sees. That is the level of bhakti. When that bhakti comes, nothing else matters. Because when you see only the Paramatma, that is jnana. At that time, you don't care for anything else. That is vairagyam. And you can't do anything wrong, and that is satkam. So you can see bhakti, jnana, vairagya, satkam all combined there. If people ask which path is better, all paths coincide. You take any of the great people, whether it's from Shankaracharya to Tyagaraja, Annamaya, anybody, they have all the four. They have bhakti, they have jnanam, they have vairagyam, and they do only satkam. Shankaracharya, why did he travel back and forth, and do so many things, write so many things? So the idea of which is better, that's a meaningless discussion. You pick one of them, move deep into it. And when bhakti comes to the end, it's almost like a tripod. You imagine four-legged. You go on any leg, the other three legs come close.
Yeah.
So with that, I will stop. And if you have any questions,
Wonderful.
I'll try to answer. By the way, don't worry about what question it is. All questions are good. Because if you ask a question, that means you are thinking about it. And not that I have an answer, but when I hear a question, I also learn from it. So I'm eager to hear questions.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's quite a tour of Yoga Vasishta. Thank you so very much. It just struck me that in Ayodhya Kanda, when Rama was summoned and said, "Hey, tomorrow we are going to make you the king," and then the following day they said, "Plan change, you are going to the jungle." His face doesn't change because he's already rich from the wisdom of Yoga Vasishta, but everybody around him actually laments, but he wasn't moved.
He was
That's
not. Yeah.
the Sthita Pragya, the way you described it, actually
Right.
you see in action in Ramayana. So that's so wonderful. All right, we can open up for Q&A. I'm sure you have tons of it. And without any shame, I'm going to take the first pass at it because it's been raging in me since the first 8th minute itself. And the question is this: somebody who is taking initial baby steps into practical Vedanta and getting started, things that you said around not letting go of duty, but still meditation and some of the spiritual practices, what can be the 2 to 3 things they can do in their life starting right after they close the Zoom call?
Yeah. Well, in the yoga, you heard of Ashtanga yoga, right? Ashtanga yoga is actually a spiritual practice. Here in the Western world, they take only the first one, the yoga, physical postures, and then exercise and all. But that's a first step. That is the yoga, living, and then jhana and meditation, eventually samadhi, right? That's how it goes. So each day, at least for 15-20 minutes, we have to think about it. What are we? Mandukya Upanishad, if some of you have not read, I suggest you read that, because it's only 12 mantras. That is the shortest of all the Upanishads. But it is so important. Mandukya mekamevalam mumukshunam vimuktaye. That's what one Upanishad says. Mandukyam ekam eva alam. Only Mandukya is enough for people who to get mumuksha, because it talks about who you are. We go through 3 different states, and then the 4th state is called Turiyam. Turiyam is actually the Akhanda Jnanam. That is the one that flows through us and gives us 3 states. What are the 3 states? Waking up, sleep, deep sleep. Each is 3 different worlds. Your waking world is different. Your dreaming world is different. When you are dreaming, you don't have any contact with the other physical world. And when you are in deep sleep, you don't have either. So in a 24-hour period, you go through all these things. So if somebody asks me, how am I have to ask them, which state are you asking me? In my waking state or deep state or deep state? So that Turiyam, we have to understand ourselves like we are, because of the senses, we have this worldly view. But the senses can't see inside. They're designed to go outside. As long as you are seeing outside, the objects are there, and then you are attached to the objects. So the whole meditation part of it is putting the senses inside. Deep meditation. Think about it. So 15-20 minutes, what is that Turiyam? What is it that is making me work? That's what the Koham is about. Kaha aham. Who am I? So meditation should be, how am I functioning? Whatever. Then the Mandukya Upanishad tells you in those 12 mantras. It also tells you symbols for these states. Akara, Ukara, Makara. That is for waking and sleep and deep sleep. That total thing is called Om. So when you say Om, you are saying these 3 states, I am not this. I am that Turiya, the 4th one, which is the Akamidya. That's how the meditation has to be done. That's why when you say Omkaram, you think about yourself. I am not this, I am not this, I am not this. So these things, they look far-fetched, but if you sit for 15-20 minutes and then focus on your breath, and our yogis have told us that if your thoughts and your breath, they coincide, that is you don't control it, but observe your breathing. Just observe your breathing. And you say your Omkaram in synchronism with your breathing. You will see a tremendous relaxation in the system and a calmness of the mind. And the mind initially wanders, but that's okay. Whenever it wanders, it gets back. And then that's how what happens with that. You have certain answers that come to you automatically from inside. So that is the first step, is to really, what I suggest is meditation with focus, with Omkaram. You say Om, synchronizing with the breath. And when you say Om, again in the Omkaram, there are three, Akara, Ukara, Makara, three symbols, right? Three states. The fourth state called Turiya, which is Akhanda Chaitanyam, there is no symbol for it. It's Nishabdam. So when you say Om, you have to say equal parts. Om, Om. In the Nishabdam time, you think of Paramatma. That is, you are overcoming all these three states. This is the practice, simple practice step. Because however much you read, however much you listen, unless you focus yourself into the meditation and try to understand, try to get the answers to questions, nobody else is going to give you the answers. You can only amalgamate what you are listening.
All answers are within. Fantastic. Great. All right. Opening up. Others, please feel free to unmute and engage.
Namaste. A wonderful session. Thank you so much. My question is, there is a state until which you're totally unaware that you're Brahman and everything is Brahman. And then there is a state that you are aware, but then you're trying to practice it in your day-to-day living. And then there are failures in your attempt. And that failure is again very difficult to take. And you start questioning, is your practice even working? How do you sustain the practice? How do you keep that motivation? And how do you move forward? And then the world is like not kind, right? Like constantly there are pressures of work and family and societal obligations. Amidst all of this, whatever you practice more becomes stronger in you, which means again, getting back to the practice of Brahman. How do you sustain that and then not reach, at least move continuously forward towards this journey?
Yeah. Well, first thing is, whatever attempts, whatever failures, or whatever successes are just physical in the physical world, right? So you have to put them in a proper perspective. That's not the end of the world. If you fail in something, you can succeed in something else. So basically, you should not get attached to the success or failure of anything. You have to attempt. Like I was saying in the beginning, you have to have prayatnam, right? If you don't have prayatnam, nothing happens. You have to. In Gita, Sri Krishna says, Tasmat Rajyadika, he says that you have a right to take action, but you have no right to the result. Why is that? That's big. You have a right to do what you want, because that you are depending on your priorities and all. The next 3 hours, what do? I can go to a party, I can go film, I can do this, I can do that, 100 things. You can select one. Suppose I select I want to go to the store. While doing that, my tire might blow up, or the store might be closed, or the road might be closed, something else can happen. So I can only decide to go, but the result is not in my hands, because there are so many external factors. So what he says is, you accept whatever results that come. Don't get attached to the result. So this basically what you're saying is, as throughout our daily life, you have ups and downs, you have things that work, things that don't work, but you have to do the right thing. What is the right thing? That comes from your priority list. If you are not doing the right thing, it's wrong, then there's no peace of mind. As long as you do the right thing, whatever result that comes, you accept it. That lack of acceptance is the reason for sorrow. Because I just said earlier, you can only attempt, but you don't have the hold on the result. You hope that it will come through, but there are so many hundreds of external factors that can influence your outcome. So you have to be cognizant of that fact, and then say, okay, I did my. So that way, what will happen is you detach day to day from the results and actions. But you do the actions, you have to do the action. Whatever is needed, you need to do. Again, it becomes obligations. What are the obligations? Did you set it by ego, or is it necessary obligation? So with that, what happens is slowly you develop a kind of unattachment to the day-to-day activities and the results. And that is the one that eventually chips off chips off your ego a little bit more, and more think less of yourself, think of more of Brahman later. In fact, that's why Manava Seva Ye Madhava Seva, that's what people say. What it means is, you think less and less of yourself when you are helping others. When you think less, that is ego has to be completely zero. That won't happen overnight. It has to come through slow practice, less and less of what we are such an insignificant creature, right? I mean, just as I said earlier, in this whole universe, so what are we? I mean, you go to an ocean and then put a finger and then lift the finger and a drop of water. If the water thinks that it's different from the ocean, how ridiculous it is. Same thing like with us. We are insignificant. We don't accept that. We think we are here, I'm here, everybody should love me, everybody should appreciate me, I did great things, this and that. That's our ego. When the ego dies completely, you don't care about yourself. You don't care about what others think about you. You only do the right thing. That is the slow dissociation with the object. Eventually, that's where great yogis, when they did that, that is when they kind of don't care anymore for the worldly things. That takes a lot of courage. It's not easy to do that. In Upanishads, they are called dhiras, people who are courageous people, because they saw the futility of going after worldly objects, and they were able to take decisions. But we can't do it overnight. So we have to do it slowly. So do what is needed, just to accept the result.
Awesome. Great. All right, we're almost on time, but perhaps one last question in case anyone wants to.
Shashi, Uma here. Just one question. I mean,
Sure.
not question, more an observation. I think Guruji mentioned that everything cannot be put to past karma in life, right? And this is something for me in this session today. It's been a wow moment, because forever I think we've been hearing that, oh, everything is because of your past karma, and you're suffering because of this or whatever it is. But it is so important to live the life well in this life, and do what is required. So I think this is very important. So, but it seems very contradictory to what one has always heard. So I mean, so what was that when it was told in the past, and what is it that Guruji is saying now? Like how do we explain this contradiction?
That's exactly the vasanas that I started in the beginning. Vishwamitra told him. That is, vasanas can only influence the results of your actions. They cannot determine the actions, because if vasanas control completely, previous karma completely controls this life, there is nothing for you to do. Because everything is determined by that already, predetermined, right? Then why all these Vedas, Upanishads and everything? Because they completely tell us, improve yourself. How can, if you want to improve, you have to have prayatna. That's why first two verses, the prayatna, fat comes. So we have a free will. We have to do that. Karma is only one part. Our prayatnam is the other part. So karma doesn't decide, previous karmas doesn't decide completely this life. Otherwise, great rishis, they say, for example, Sri Shankaracharya says, Pakasya vannivat jnanam vina mokshona siddhati. Pakasya vannivat. For cooking, you need fire, right? Jnanam vina mokshona siddhati. Without jnanam, you cannot get moksha. What is that moksha then? Going beyond all these karmas. How can you go beyond all these karmas if your previous karma is haunting you all the time? That is because of prayatna, because of effort. That is, there is a method for which you overcome. What is karma? Karma is only because of attachment to the world. If you don't have attachments to the world, if you don't care about the world, then where is the karma? That's what this says. That is the jnanam. When the jnanam comes, they are not concerned about these karmas, all those things, worldly matters anymore. They go beyond that. So with the jnanam, karma will die. When they say that, what it may mean is you are going beyond that. So important point what we started was the previous karmas do not determine completely in this life. That influences some part of it. How much it is, we don't know. It depends on how bad the previous karma is or how good the previous karma is. But it's not completely, it doesn't control this life. Otherwise, we don't have free will. We have a free will. That's what all these things, Upanishads and everything tell you. You use your free will to improve yourself, to overcome this karma. So otherwise, without free will, nothing else matters. So the statement that previous karmas completely control this life is meaningless. Then our own existence, the whole activity, what we do, there is no free will.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So prayatnam is the main thing, is what you're
Is
saying.
the important thing. That's what Krishna tells Arjuna also.
Yes.
You have to do it. You have to start.
Right. Namaste, Guruji. Thank you.
Yeah. In fact, he says, Krishna tells you, no one, even for 1 second, can be without any karma. Whether you are sleeping, doing something, whatever, with mind or with body, you are doing something. He says, direct all those karmas to me. That's what he says. That's bhakti.
That's why we say Krishna Arpanamastu, right? For everything.
Yeah, everything that's exactly right. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Sarvam Krishna Arpanamastu.
Sarvam Krishna Arpanamastu. Right. Thank you. Namaste, sir.
Great.
Well, if you like to send me some questions later on, maybe you can get my email address from him. You are welcome to do it. I will try to answer. Not that I know all the answers for everything, but at least I give another viewpoint to you, so that we can think together. So I like it. I look at it that way. It's not as though you have questions and I have answers. It is we are conversing with each other. We are sharing the knowledge. Nobody has complete knowledge.
Sir, our culture is all dialogue and sambhavna. So I think we have to continue these discourses and discussions.
So I'll be happy to anytime.
Yes.
I just have a small insight to share. Actually, music, once they teach the Saraliswaras and everything, once we reach a certain stage, for us to get our ability to sing akara as well, they make us do akara, ukara, amkara, and ikara too. So today, and then yes, in Advaita we had a u, ma, and then the beyond. So today that is a very new connection I kind of established, understood while listening to you.
I'm glad.
That's
I don't know.
Well, because I tried to put things together. I have written something like 6 books on this and various ways, but it is it's very hard to explain everything in half an hour or 40 minutes. But I try to put different ideas put together. But anytime on various topics, we can talk about it down the road. So let me close it by reciting a Shanti Mantram, which you all know. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavati Tamastumavad Vishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Swasti. Thank you all. It's a great meeting you all.
Thank you so much. Just a conclusion remark. Guruji has also sent us a couple of articles and audio speeches related to the subject. I'll put it in our group. And as he said, I'll also share the email address liberally. Feel free to engage further from there onwards. Okay, wonderful. Once again, on behalf of all of us, thank you very much for this time. What a wonderful day to start a Sunday.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pranam.